Crypto continued to pump yesterday after we got off the show, hitting highs it hasn't seen since 2022. It is a wild time out there. We're going to be discussing crypto, the concerns with everything going on in China, the TradFi markets getting a little bit of a late day pump here. All of that and more today on Money Never Sleeps. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. As we get going, do us a solid, like, subscribe. All of that is greatly appreciated. Nothing Kevin or I say is financial advice, or if you guys who love following the markets, but please do your own research before buying or selling. Kev, crypto was getting a nice little bump yesterday when we were doing the show with Mr. House. It took off even further. Bitcoin got all the way up to a little over 35K. It's settled in right now in the high 33s. Highest level we've seen since May 9th of 2022. ETH is currently at 1777. It got up into the mid 1800s, like the 1850s yesterday. Haven't seen that number in a little bit as well. Not as far back. Bitcoin dominance is up to 54%. It's on its way to the level of 57, which you told us was, going to be here sooner than later. So that is looking strong as hell today as well. What is catching your eye? I know that you're looking at TradFi right now. We still have so much going on in the Middle East. Don't need to spend too much time on that today because our Middle East correspondent, Mr. House, is not with us today. But what has your attention as we continue a very volatile week in the markets?
Yeah, I didn't sleep at all last night, so I had plenty of time to be doing tons of research, and I've just been looking at charts all night. And obviously, I'm keeping an eye on TradFi. The VIX is the number one thing I think people are going to be. That's really important. I want to see it close above 19.5. If it doesn't close above 19.5, there's probably a good chance we're going to see it push down a little bit more. But I'm going to pull up. Is it cool if I pull up total market cap real quick?
Let's do it, man.
Let's do it. Yeah, because that's one thing that I think a lot of people are maybe just not taking into account for, right? And I'm going to pull this up right here. This is total market cap. So this includes Bitcoin and the top 124 altcoins, I believe. This is on the hourly chart. Let's go to the daily. So this is the total market cap, right? We were in the parallel channel, this massive one, and we broke out of it. And we thought we were going to move to the downside. However, we found some type of liquidity to push up. And here we are, right? We shot up a decent amount. I mean, this is just yesterday alone. We were up 7.46 on all of crypto, and then today we're up 1.31%. But we have to keep in mind, obviously, technicals are really important. I think when we look at all of crypto and seeing how the market's reacting, first off, got some gaps that we can fill here. I mean, this just shot up in one straight candle. Eventually, that's going to fill out, so we have to keep that in mind. We're also at necessarily below the midline of a parallel channel, so I think we're going to be finding resistance up here. And we also see that the stochastic RSI is completely overbought. Like, it cannot be more overbought on the stochastic RSI. It can, close up here for a few days, still go up in price, but it's going to be at 100 and 100 on the SRSI on the daily. So that's something that we have to keep an eye on. The weekly, we're seeing that we're getting extremely close to the 100 level here. We're going to be, at least we'll be overbought, I think, by the end of this week. If we're not, what the fuck? That's a massive candle for us not to be pushing into the overbought territory. And again, this is just me seeing something that I don't think a lot of people are talking about. Obviously, we put in a new yearly high for all of crypto last night, is what it is. But there's a lot of things that are still pretty dangerous. I think when we look at this, I still say that we're in this parallel channel, and we can see that on the monthly, there's still plenty of room to come down. So yeah, we did pump a lot, but I think that there are a lot of things that are lining up that might not be great for pushing forward. Again, what pushed the price up yesterday? We talked about it yesterday, and then if you follow me on Twitter, you know that I've been bitching about it nonstop for the past week. It's stable coins, right? It's Justin Sun and CZ of Binance, two guys that love to brag about when they print this shit. They're like two little girls at sleep over that just fart under the covers and smell and kiss each other in the nose. They're absolute freaks.
What?
But
okay, maybe you leave like some of the jokes to me on that one. I'm not too sure about that.
Well, let's put it this way: they're two people that are pretty much in the same team when pushing this market up with FDUSD. Let's pull FDUSD up real quick just so you guys have an idea of the type of manipulation that we're talking about here. I want you to see what the actual market cap is for this thing. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Yeah, so the total market cap of FDUSD is $479 million pretty much. And we can see that in the past 24 hours that it was 4.23 billion that we saw that pushed the price up of Bitcoin. So something that has $500 million worth of market cap had a volume of $4 billion within the past 24 hours. Doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So
Seems reasonable.
it was the top trading pair on Binance, and that's what's really insane. So they keep sending the money to the exchange. The thing is that's really weird is they're sending the money through USDT. So I don't know if Tether is involved in this too, pushing the price up. Wouldn't be surprised, they've done it in the past. But the thing is, once they sell in USDC. It goes to Coinbase, it gets burned, or it goes to Circle, gets burned, and then guess what? They walk away with all the fiat, and then all these stable coins that are worth nothing are still on the exchange, holding up the price of these assets. So, from what I'm seeing, I don't think the assets of what the price is currently what they're valued at. I mean, it's a shitty thing to say when the price is at 30 something thousand, 33,000. It's like, oh no, manipulation. It's like, yeah, I hate to say it, but guys, it is what it is. If we don't call it out, then we're going to be stuck here in the next bear market where they're just going to be doing the same thing, or even in the next bull market, they'll push the price up, significantly. It's great to see the price go up, but my problem is you can't have people doing this. This guy has total market share of all of crypto pretty much. They're the biggest exchange despite everything that's happened to them this year. They got low volume, low liquidity, but this is, I hate to say it, kind of need regulation so people like this don't act like this in this space. This is extremely dangerous, and you can't have people that are, I'm not going to say fucking like Scarface, but like, the end of Scarface, like coked up Tony Montana. That's kind of how he's acting right now. He's just going out guns blazing. So I think it's a really dangerous place to be on any of these exchanges, whether it's Deribit, you know, Binance, Huobi. I think a lot of them are really low liquidity, low volume, and they need people to get on the exchange, and pushing the price up usually entices people to get in because it's like, oh no, I'm going to miss out. Well, then you find out that the IBTC thing wasn't real, and then the market dumps a little bit on you. So we're in a mass liquidation event. Be careful, be safe. You just have to bring that up because things aren't as rosy as people would like them to be.
Yeah, except for Coke, it's Adderall and Red Bull. So, that is the modern day version of what these guys are up to. Okay. We have earnings this afternoon coming in from Google as well as Microsoft and Visa. So should be some interesting data there. We'll cover that on tomorrow's show. We were talking, as we were getting ready to go live, you were kind of saying, not expecting good earnings today. Like these are companies that they don't really rely on, they're pretty much set as far as what they're doing here. So I don't think we need to spend too much time on that. Do you have kind of like any of the expectations there, how you think it could impact the market? They're part of the Magnificent Seven or whatever the hell we're calling it these days. But, they're having Microsoft up a little bit today, Google up about 1.5%. We see tech is having a solid day. Coinbase obviously doing the best of them with its crypto exposure up a little over 5% today at $81.41 per share. But is there anything else on the earnings side with Microsoft, Google, or Visa that you want to talk about?
Not necessarily. I think that Microsoft and Google are going to be okay. I think they're among all the the seven stocks of the apocalypse, or the Magnificent Seven, whatever you want to call them. I think that those two are probably the ones that rely on the least amount of overhead when it comes to running a business. We know that Tesla is producing vehicles that's costly. We know that people aren't buying goods that expensive. They're not buying vehicles right now. So I don't necessarily think that they're in the same place as Tesla. I think that we might be kind of getting maybe a little bit of a fool's rally once again in the market. If earnings do come back, they beat expectations. It seems like most people are beating expectations today, except for some of the regional banks. But yeah, I think that it's probably going to be fine. Market's going to rally going into tomorrow. And then maybe we get some bad news with Amazon. Facebook, no idea. That I don't necessarily know what Facebook does anymore, to be honest with you.
I'm curious, we saw today the news that the BlackRock's ETF is no longer listed. I forget what the site is.
IBTC.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's no longer listed. That caused a little bit of a pullback. I think we're seeing it not pull back as much due to the fact that the House Republicans nominated Senator Tom Emmer to be House Speaker, and he is a big crypto advocate. And so I think there's still some people who are viewing this, and maybe rightly so, to be honest with you, like having someone who advocates, we're so used to having people like Elizabeth Warren and Nancy Pelosi and all of these people who are anti crypto for whatever reason, whether it's because their constituents want to hear it or because they're getting, big donations from banks and banks don't like crypto because it takes money away from them, advocating against crypto. Now we have someone who potentially is in that position. And I wonder what that is going to do to the market for the time being. And, I think our perception, we have to separate a few different things here from crypto valuations versus, some of the macro stuff we look at in regards to, Visa earnings. We're going to see more about delinquency today. We'll see that with MasterCard. We'll see that with Verizon and delinquent phone bills. At the same time, let's just be honest, the people who are going to be having those delinquencies, they're not going to be involved in crypto to really move the market. However, if we do see people like Emmer take over as House Speaker and he is pushing a more crypto-friendly agenda there, that could make people in higher income brackets more likely to get involved and dip their toes in, could have a positive impact on markets. So all of this is important to take with a grain of salt. I think, diverging what data we're looking at and like putting into different buckets as far as what it's going to impact is important as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good point to bring up. Like for the time being, that might help out, some of these assets, especially after what's happened yesterday, right? I think people are still feeling pretty euphoric about the price finally being this green. We haven't seen these since 2022, and it's been a while. It's been a while since we've been above 30K, and it's closing above 30K. But yeah, I think that it's interesting that they finally agreed on someone for represent them as House Speaker. I think that a lot of the macro still is what's going to be most important when we talk about liquidity coming into the system. That's the most important thing. That's why I'm focusing on TradFi, because I don't necessarily think that everything is okay just because certain stocks and the prices of crypto are going up right now. If anything, I think that this is a little bit more beneficial to people who have maybe more exposure to that, right? I think this helped out a lot of exchanges. I think it helped out a lot of wealthy individuals. We're starting to see supply hit onto the exchanges. So yeah, I think maybe not now, but going into the recovery, 2024, 2025, if he's still there, maybe this is a good look for crypto. But again, right now, I think that there's a lot of bigger factors that are in play. But having these pro crypto, people in politics are definitely going to be beneficial for adoption going forward, and probably get investors who are maybe more cautious. And once we do get more regulation in the United States, we might see a lot more adoption where money does start to flow in. I just don't think that the time is now.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like we talk about these different stock earnings that we look at as indicators of the health of the consumer. And when it comes to credit cards, I wonder, breaking those credit cards up into like different socioeconomic brackets, right? Like I feel like Amex is a much more affluent based credit card company.
Yeah.
And so when I see that more and more people are defaulting over there and they're having to write down more accounts over there, that to me is more concerning for stock valuations and people having to, sell assets to cover their liabilities than say with like Visa and MasterCard. And
Yeah.
I think I'm not sure if that really lines up. Is just kind of a thought that I've had lately is like, okay, when we look at these things for health of the consumer, obviously different types of products are going to be more representative of different income levels. And so I'm wondering with that increase, like for Amex and the problems they're having, if that is a result of more people in these higher tax brackets who have been living above their means, which is just so stupid. We've been talking about this since the beginning, right? Like how important it is to live below your means at this point. And if so, hopefully you were accumulating some crypto over the last 6 months and you've seen that go up in price, because that's pretty cool. So, it's just, it's an interesting time to kind of being able to to differentiate signal from noise, because there is so much noise out there. It's really, really challenging not to get lost in some of that at times. So I think that's something we definitely need to keep a track. Like, that's something I personally am looking at, is like, okay, what indications do I need to be more focused on? What are areas where I can like tune stuff out, because it's just not really doing any good for what I'm trying to accomplish here. So just kind of like a stream of consciousness that I'm just spitting out into the show right now.
No, you are 100%. I couldn't agree more with you, dude. And to add to that, I actually have a position on a credit card company, and it was using your exact logic that made sense to me. So yeah, I anticipated that a lot of these, bigger corporations, they might see some more pain. Visa, Amex, these companies, but are they going to go down significantly? I still think that there is, a good amount of people who have decent wealth that are able to pay off most of their cards. We definitely will see delinquencies, but that's just going to trickle down, obviously. So for people who is it going to affect most, is probably going to be middle class to lower income, right? So a company that would probably be in pain would be like a Discover, right? Discover tends to be more of like the everyman's credit card. They have a pretty high price level, in my opinion, looking right now, and then seeing where we had a bit of a credit crunch back in 2008, we could see that there's a pretty good chance that this can go down significantly. So I think if we're seeing issues, obviously with Visa, we're definitely going to see it with Discover. We're definitely going to see it with MasterCard, and all these companies that are, even banks that are offering, these credit cards at pretty much middle class and lower income people, who are also being the ones killed the most right now by inflation and rising goods, and just bills are coming up like crazy, student loans. That's I think the credit cards, the ones below Amex and Visa, are probably going to be the ones that are going to be hurting the most.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Okay, what else is on your radar at the moment? We've talked through some of the earnings stuff. We can look at a couple crypto charts. I think tomorrow is going to be a longer one, kind of dissecting some of these earnings, as well as seeing, some more economic data come in. So what are a couple charts that have really caught your eye? Let's make it actionable, and then we can begin to wrap it up.
Absolutely. Before we do that, I do want to pull up the again. This is data from Eurozone that we got. It's French PMI, and I think it's really interesting right now. And some people don't think it's important, but I think that a lot of what's going on in the Eurozone is really important, because that's going to give us an inside look to what's coming our way. French manufacturing PMI flash actual was 42.6. The forecast was 44.4. They expect the previous was 44.2, so it contracted. Anything below 50 is a contraction in the market, and we can see that it contracted significantly, right? That's a really big move to the downside there. So eventually we're going to start seeing the services sector start to pull back, right? Right now it's at 46.1. They expect it to be at 44.6, and last time it was at 44.4. So it did move up a little bit here, but once manufacturing starts to contract, we can anticipate that the services sector in France is going to be, problematic. And the reason I bring this up is because a lot of what's going on in the world right now, and I'll bring up Israel real quick. A lot of these nations that are having these contractions in manufacturing are also the ones that are kind of involved in this war to some degree. We've seen the UK, who's had, contraction in manufacturing. Germany's had some contraction in manufacturing. Obviously, France is now, and a lot of these leaders have went and visited Israel as of recent. Macron's right in Tel Aviv today. So I don't know if they're trying to cover up some of the data that's coming out of their country, that, this news isn't, making the way, like the headlines. This is really important, because this shows that we are going to start seeing a lot of unemployment rises in, France. We've seen unemployment start to rise in Germany. We're seeing in the UK. UK had to revise their unemployment numbers from previous months. So there's a lot of issues that are going on over there, and this kind of bleeds into the DXY and the euro, which we can pull that up right now before we get into some of the other charts. But the DXY is breaking up today, and that's a good thing, because we are kind of anticipating that would happen. It was finding some wild support down here on this 105.659. It lost it for a little bit, but then we can see that it just got a bullish engulfing candle straight up. We're at the end of this parallel channel, which I do think it's going to break, and which kind of gives me warning that something is going to happen in this market. And the reason that this is breaking up is because we got all the data from Europe overnight, and we can take a look at the euro, which has been strong as could be lately. And we got a bearish engulfing candle on that side, right? And this is putting in a bear flag 100%. It's a parallel channel going up. You can see that it's completely overbought on the stochastic RSI on the daily. It's found rejection on the 50 moving average. I think this is going to break down. If that's the case, the dollar is going to move up. And we're seeing all these issues that are going on in the world. And the United States is blessed in its location. I said this a few days ago, I think with House, that they are pretty much the last stand of where all the problems in the world are going to, end. And that's because we're isolated from any conflicts that are happening, geographically. But at the same time, people have faith in our markets because look, the US dollar is, the world reserve currency. So you can talk about BRICS or anything you want. The dollar is still strong as could be right here, even if there's investor worries in the United States. Issues outside of the US are going to definitely push this dollar up. And I think that we're seeing this is a bit of a breakout. I think we're going to see this breakout once we get some type of news, whether it's PCE or even bad earnings. Honestly, if we get a really bad earning from one of these big boys, I think the dollar could shoot up significantly. And I think we do have some data coming out. Is it Thursday? We have PCE Friday.
PCE Friday, personal income, personal spending on Friday. Wednesday is Q3 GDP.
That's it. GDP. That's the big one. So keep an eye on the dollar when we get the GDP. And I don't know if it's we're also going to get revisions, I think, on another one coming soon. But this is what I'm going to be keeping an eye on, GDP and the dollar, because this could eventually just send this thing straight up to that green line there, which is 107. And that's what we've been waiting for. And this is a bull flag. I mean, this 100% is a bull flag, lower lows and lower highs. Found support here. Got the 50 moving average right here, completely oversold on the daily. Euro looks like it's about to collapse. That's my bull case for the dollar there. So let's definitely keep an eye on that. I just want to pull up the Dow real quick. We're getting a little bit of a rally here. Obviously, it's not much in the grand scheme of how much it's been down for the past few, since July of 2023. But we're going to get real close to this death cross on the daily. You got the 50 and the 200 coming close. Unless we're able to rally up to that 200 and start closing above it on the daily, it's probably going to be, maybe by the end of this week or early next week, depending on how the price reacts in the coming days in the markets. But that's what the big thing is for the Dow right now. Keep an eye on that because that's really important. S&P is at a pretty critical level right now. I tweeted about this a while ago. I said that 4250 is an important level to stay below. We're at it currently, 4250.18 right now. We could break above it. It's nothing wrong with breaking above it. But again, as we break above it, we could see that the 50 and the 200 are also closing in here. And if we kind of get rejected here at the 200 above, if we get rejected at the 200 period, we're probably going to stay under 4250, and we're probably going to see this 50 cross the 200 in the coming weeks. I would say maybe 2 weeks or so this might happen. So keep an eye on that. And then the NASDAQ, obviously, we're still in this descending triangle, right? We're bouncing a little bit here. No surprise. We got tech earnings coming up. I think that they're going to be okay. Market might rally a little bit, but we got the 50 that could be resistance right here. If we find resistance on that, we're going to go back to this yellow line once again. We could push up to this blue line, but I think we got some really good resistance in these areas. I also think a lot of people are taking profit off of a lot of these tech stocks after seeing what happened with Netflix. So you might buy some of this news and then sell it the next day. I'm really interested to see how people trade the NASDAQ and a lot of these tech stocks coming these next few days, this next week, because it is a pretty big week here. But yeah, that's really what you need to be keeping an eye on. I think the death crosses are important. Zoom out, you'll be able to see them. And even if the NASDAQ, it's coming, it's not here yet, but there is a death cross that is, once we start closing below this yellow line, we break out of this to the downside, there's a good chance that this thing's going to cross, and then, well, bad for tech stocks. That's what you need to know. But VIX, last thing before we get into Bitcoin and then any other coins that we want to take a look at. Oops, didn't want that. VIX, we can see that we're below 1950. Want to get above 1950 just so we can find that support there. We're at 19.21. If we see a bit of a sell-off in the S&P towards the end of the day, I can see us pushing up. If not, we're probably going to be testing the 200 or the 50. But again, look at this. Inverse of what's going on with the S&P and the Dow and the NASDAQ, we got a golden cross that is coming our way in a few days. So I hope we find some support on this. That way we can see this golden cross, and that probably is a pretty good indicator that we are going to see some volatility in the markets. Let me just go to the last golden cross we got. This was back in August of 2022. This was when the Fed was going to start raising rates like crazy. I think they put 75 basis points or something like that back in September that year, late September, and we went all the way up to 34. So if we're currently on the VIX right now at 1920, it looks like it's overbought on the daily. We might have a little bit of room to the downside here. Well, maybe that's just setting us up so that we can break, but we do need to get this golden cross in the VIX. I think that's going to be an accelerator for a lot of volatility, probably inverse of what's going to happen with the S&P. So something to keep an eye on. All
right. Good deal. Yeah, let's go quickly through Bitcoin. We can look at BTC dominance. I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up.
Absolutely. These are the ones that you need to keep an eye on because most alts are already being held back, I think, by Bitcoin dominance. So we can just kind of, gloss over that with that. But this is Bitcoin. I've been watching this on the hourly like a fucking madman. This is disgusting to be watching this on the hourly because it was pretty much up only. Just wouldn't stop buying last night, man. Insane. Even Asia was buying it. Australia, all those guys were buying late at night. So I was like, all right, whatever. Let's see how this plays out. But this morning I was watching this play out. We got a wick up here, and I saw that we got this wick here, and we got rejected on the 4 hourly chart and the hourly chart. I was kind of watching those because we can't really make sense of this on the daily. Yeah, it's been one day, but we can see that we put in a lower high here, and we found rejection on this line. For me, I was like, okay, this looks like a bit of deviation. Looks like the price is gonna be turning
Are
around.
we seeing the start of a McDonald's pattern here?
I would love
I'm
for that to
flipping
be
it.
a McDonald's pattern with two long French fries on the ends, just straight down, up and down. It'd be great.
Couple chicken nuggies in between.
Yeah, no, chicken nuggets are for the bull market. We're not in the bull market.
That's in the bull. What are we eating in the bear?
Uh,
Dried bricks of ramen?
13-year-old snack wraps that were underneath the grill that they found. I don't know. Something, it ain't pretty. It's live beneath your means right now. This is where we are. We're in a bear market. But yeah, this is where 34 is an absolute wild level. Let me just go to the 1 minute chart because I'm a fucking madman looking at this 1 minute chart all last night. It was just bouncing. Like it kept testing this 34 level. I think I even did it over here. Yeah. It just kept finding rejection. So 34, they were not finding any bids above that. And then it wasn't until like right around here, CZ tweeted, congrats, keep building. This is we made it out of the bear market pretty much, he was saying. And then I saw that they printed like $500 million worth of stables, and then the price broke above 34. So I'm like, okay, there's no demand above 34. People are selling when they get the chance, and we're still seeing that right now. We're at 33,787. I think that we are going to continue to find resistance up in this range. I don't know if they're buying it or not, but what we need to keep in mind is the price was pushing up and the volumes were coming down on the hourly, right? Look at the 4 hourly. It was a very similar situation. Price was going up, volumes are coming down. And even if we look at the daily, which is completely, insane, it's 100 and 100 on the stochastic RSI. We got 2 days of decent volume pushing up, but I mean, today, it's a pretty good amount of volume, I guess. I think that a lot of this is coming from what happened late last night, not necessarily what's happened today in the markets. Maybe a little bit of selling after the BlackRock fake news stuff, but I think we're in this range where 34 is our current resistance right now. We wicked all the way down to 32,829. I think we have to fill this gap right here between 32.5 and 31.8. So roughly where we're trying not to break above to keep that head and shoulders pattern valid. But yeah, this is kind of the range that we're in. And the funny thing is, I looked at the height of where we went. It was 35,280. You know how significant that number is? It's literally $10,000 higher than the level of support that we could not break all year. 25,280. That was the exact number. We went $10,000 above it. Tell me this market isn't manipulated in some way. That's just insane. So I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the price of this stuff. And again, I could cry and say that all day. At the end of the day, it's going to trade as it does. Doesn't seem right to me in any way that we're finding rejection at 34K, that we shot up to the penny, ended at that level, and currently we're just trading below it. I think we're distributing a lot of supply here, so keep an eye on this. I think that we do have to come down, but again, markets are absolutely irrational. You have to watch out, be careful out there because they will liquidate you. I think a lot of liquidity is below us right now because everyone's going long, but at the end of the day, just, watch your shorts, wear a belt. But here we are, Bitcoin dominance. This thing shot up insane too yesterday. What was it, like 34? Yeah, here it is. Shot up all the way to 34. Am I stupid? Why is this not coming up? I am, dude. Wasn't this a lot higher yesterday? Oh, here it is. It's really thin. 54.26. My bad. 54.26. It's pulled back obviously, but it looks like it's creeping up once again. We're at 53.97. I kept on tweeting 52%. Once we regain that, we'll be heading to 57%. And that's a pretty big move. I mean, from where we were back in July to where we are currently, this is roughly 3.56% higher than where we were then. I mean, this has just been an absolute piss missile, just straight up. And we saw it yesterday how much Bitcoin dominance just went up in a matter of minutes, like literally 2 minutes. It went from 51 to next thing I know, it was like 54, mid 54, right? So Bitcoin dominance, this is going to kill alts. There's a lot of liquidity, I guess. right now in the market. So maybe that's why some alts are definitely up. However, everything is overbought on the stochastic RSI. I do anticipate that there is going to be a sell-off. If no one's buying spot, this thing's going to collapse, right? People need to be buying spot in order to keep the prices elevated. If they're just, buying perps going long, it's going to collapse. They're just going to find the liquidity by liquidating those positions. And a lot of it sits lower. And, before we head out, I'll show you the last important thing, why Bitcoin dominance is important and why we are really, keeping an eye on liquidations right now. Well, it's because, like I said, if there's no spot, they're not going to be able to push the price up unless they obviously stables. But we know that they'll do that. But let's see where the liquidity sits. This is the 7-day, right? We can see that the further we push over here, we have roughly a little under $1 billion worth of liquidations that we could push up to all the way to 38.5, or we could just push to say 30,000 and we liquidate 1.94 billion positions. So I think that it makes a lot more sense to be pushing down than up, especially with how many people went long yesterday on perps. I think that that's the way the move. However, they could push the price up a little bit more to build that liquidity down below even higher. But if it were me, I'm fighting between $2 billion and $1 billion on the BTC charts across the exchanges, it's going to make more sense to go for 2 billion, right? And then go back for the people who are shorting after that. So it's a game. These guys are just having fun with it. Again, I think the key to all our answers where this doesn't happen anymore is 100% TradFi starts to eat shit. Banks collapse, people start panicking to try and draw their money. It's the only way that they're not going to have enough funds to even have fun with their games anymore. It's just going to be okay to run a bank run. So be safe. I definitely don't trust any exchange right now. I personally think that they're all frauds, and Gary Gensler is not wrong in this situation. Bold words.
Wow, Kevin backing Gary Gensler.
And Peter Schiff, what's happening?
I don't know, man. I don't like it. It stinks to high heaven. Okay, that's how we're going to wrap it up for today. Kevin siding with a Fed and with Peter Schiff. Thanks a lot. Be back tomorrow, same time, same place. If you have not yet, like button's down there. Just give that a little click. Same with the subscribe. Let me type out a little comment for us. And if you want, share us out on social media. I got some hand gestures for everything right now. So that is how we are going to do it today. Appreciate it, as always, for being here with us. Have an awesome rest of your day in the markets. Stay safe out there, and we will see you tomorrow.
Take care, everyone.